Okay, welcome everyone. Welcome to the Construct Innovate webinar series on modern methods of construction. This week, the focus is on off-site manufacturing facilities and how we deliver sustainability at scale to the construction sector. My name is Jamie Goggins. I'm co-director of Construct Innovate. Construct Innovate is Ireland's National Research Centre for Construction Technology and Innovation. We're running this webinar series in association with Engineers Ireland. So this is the 7th webinar of the series, in there of an 8-week series. As I said, we have 3 speakers today in there, so really looking forward to these 3 presentations. So we have Mikey Ryan, who's Director of Operations at Kirby Group Engineering in there, and they have recently opened up a new offsite manufacturing facility for data centers in Ireland. So Mikey's going to discuss that with us. We have Ross Kilshaw, who's co-founder and COO of Artic, who provide software and support to industry, and he's going to talk about labour productivity and how we can scale with security and comfort. And then we have Barry Kennedy, who's the CEO of the Irish Manufacturing Research Centre, and he's going to talk about manufacturing efficiencies and sustainability and how we in the construction sector can learn lessons from the manufacturing sector. So we'll have our 3 presentations. If you have any questions for any of our presenters while they're presenting, please do pose your questions in the Q&A function at the bottom of the screen, and then we'll have the Q&A session after all 3 speakers are finished. So without further ado, I'm going to hand over to our first speaker, Mikey Ryan, Director of Operations at Kirby Group Engineering, who's going to talk about offsite manufacturing and data center construction. So over to you, Mikey.
Thanks, Jamie. Welcome all. I suppose Mikey Ryan, Operations Director at Kirby's. For those of you who don't know me, we're a mechanical and electrical company that has been in business for over 60 years, and would have started out as a Limerick-based company and have now expanded out across Europe, obviously following the data center market. And with that comes this challenge with speed, and I suppose efficiency is definitely in the data center side of things and the pharma and medtech side. So I suppose the reason why Kirby's have decided to set up a manufacturing facility in the Midlands in Portlaoise was with the challenges that we had ahead of us, which was our, I suppose, as I mentioned already, the speed. So we decided as a board to make a massive investment last year in Portlaoise and build our offsite manufacturing facilities. Now, for mechanical and electrical, I suppose some of the questions you'll be always hearing is what difference will it make for the electrical side of things when you're not going to be joining 6 meters of cable together, or you're not going to be bolting stuff together in 6-meter modules. I suppose things have gone on past that side of things, definitely in the offsite manufacturing side of things with the BIM and digital construction, that obviously modules and I suppose infrastructures can be made off-site while the building is being built. And that's the view we had taken in Kirby's. The first question you're always asked by the client is, how much money is it going to save? I suppose the realistic thing that I keep telling everyone, and no matter what calculations we do, is it going to save a fortune? Probably sometimes, to be honest, it can be more expensive to do the offsite manufacturing. What it saves on is time. And obviously in time, you save money over prelims and durations of the project. So that's the view we've taken. Again, case in point, we done a sandbox in Athlone 3 years ago with a small building that we started, and again we saw the benefits within probably 3 to 4 weeks of making brackets, pipe, containment, all infrastructure related to the M&E side of things, whether it was in data centers or whether it was in pharma or medtech side of things. And again, we've a lot of lessons learned on it, and we've seen the benefits, as I said, and hopefully this brief presentation I'm going to give here will explain why we did it and where we're doing it for, I suppose, and again, we'll be open to questions. So, as I said, on the offsite manufacturing, we've set up here in Portlaoise, fantastic 8-acre site that we purchased. And again, the building is there just on the left-hand side as you're looking at the screen there. That's actually the current building, and we've planning gone into extend that again straight away after 12 months. So it's a massive success story. So we've over 50 staff currently employed here, and we're doubling the size of the footprint there. And we hope to have the bones of 80 to 90 staff, local staff, and I suppose all skills, apprenticeships and training areas as well. So we've obviously hit the nail on the head by doing this. I suppose we just need to continue to work. Why are we doing the offsite manufacturing? I suppose the benefits to us: increased efficiency. So as I mentioned already, manufacturing of the building, you have a controlled environment. So the guys, I just been out on the floor there 10 minutes ago. So the guys are in a nice, warm, clean environment doing their high purity welding inside in the clean rooms. We're doing the carbon steel welding out on the floor, and then we're doing the bracket manufacturing as well. It makes a big difference to the guys doing a 6-inch weld on a carbon pipe here on the factory floor than it does above in an MEWP out on site in the conditions that I'm looking out in here at the minute with rain pouring down. So again, your quality, your efficiency, everything, it goes up. You don't, and again, I don't want to get down into the detail of it. When you have somebody that is working on a large, we call it data center site, they have to walk maybe 15-20 minutes to get to the facilities of the canteens and stuff like that. So all your efficiencies even come down to consumables. It all makes sense when you have everything under the one roof, all within a certain area. You're not losing time on people walking from A to B to stores to get equipment up, to get tools up. Plus, I suppose the rework side of things and the likelihood of errors inside in the offsite manufacturing through our paperless system that we're seeing at the minute is very minimal. It's down to about 2% of reworks. That's just on certain brackets and stuff like that, once-offs. And again, some of it is trial and error because we are only starting out on the main structural side of things and the CE certification. That was a big process for us to get through, but we're definitely seeing the efficiency side of things that we're doing compared to the on-site stick build, as we call it, is phenomenal so far. And again, I'd love to be able to produce a document that's able to say you're able to save this much money and this much, because everyone relates back to money. It's time with us. We only get paid once to do it. Nobody wants to see us coming back, taking stuff down and losing money, having to do it a second time out in site because somebody was rushed or was snowing or raining down on top of it. So the efficiencies we're seeing in the reworks and all that has gone from probably realistically from 8% down to 2% on some of the stuff out in site. Reduced construction duration. Again, I mentioned that already. The first thing, and it's across the board, every client I sit in front of, how much money are you going to save with the OSM? How much money? It's not. It's really down to time. The construction period that you have now, as everyone knows, is reducing. Everyone wants stuff built faster, but they want the same quality and they want value, which is all acceptable. But I suppose time is the biggest thing. If you can reduce the time that you need on site, how do you do that? I suppose it really comes down to early engagement. And when I talk about early engagement, it's early workshops with design houses, with the client, with the end user, that you're sitting down there and say, listen, I don't think this is the right way. Again, we're no experts on it, but we're at it for over 60 years. We have a good idea how things should fit in the building. Some people can put stuff on a drawing and it looks lovely on a drawing, but it might never work inside in the building. When you can get your pre-construction, it's the most important part of any project, in my opinion. The pre-construction, understanding how everything works, getting from A to B, how you do it, and understand will it fit in that side of things. And again, from our side of things, when we're working into GCs, you'll have builders works that need to be produced straight away. So they can go and get their precast done and there'll be opes in the right locations. And that all comes back to linking in with the, I suppose, the digital side of things and the BIM and the construction. We have a very good team with over 100 BIM technicians working for us. And again, it's all important to us that we get this all laid out in a model that we can hand over to the GC, the builder, and they can have all their opes ready for us. They don't want reworks either. And as I said, you only get paid once. But when you're reducing construction time, if you can take prelims off the job a lot earlier, that's where the real money is. And again, that's where the end user gets benefit as well. If they're in their building 2, 3, 4 weeks earlier because you've done the pre-construction, the OSM, and everything works out, you can't put a price on that if the truth be told. How do we do it? As I said, if you get the infrastructure set up right, your pre-construction set up right, as the building is coming out of ground, as the piling is being done, as the slab is being poured, as the steel is going up, Kirby OSM should be in a position that we're making modules to go into that building as the building is coming out of ground. Whereas you go to the stick build, you wait for the building to be weather tight. That was always a key milestone in our schedule. The building had to be weather tight before we start doing our install. Now we're in a situation where we've 28 modules out on the floor there currently this morning, ranging from 15 to 18 meters in pipe racks with full mechanical and electrical services, lagged, labeled, everything on them, waiting for the building to become weather tight so we can actually install them. So we have a jump on the construction as it is, and we're ready to go, that we're not chasing straight away. Quality, again, the rigorous quality controls and measures that we have out here are second to none. And again, it's getting people trained up on that. As I said, over 50 staff here, getting them to buy into the paperless system of checking everything off. Everything has to be checked, QR code scanned before it goes out. So we're sending material from here across, obviously, all of Ireland, the UK, and across Europe. Sweden is probably one of our biggest suppliers that we're supplying into, should I say. And I'll show you a graph there on why that is now in a few minutes. But the result is right. When you get the quality right, as I said, you only get paid to do it once. And once we can get that environment right here, that everything is going out the door, when it's scanned on a QR code and there's no quality issues and you're not getting a phone call when it gets delivered to one of our projects to say there's an issue with this and an issue with that, it just makes the whole thing. We had teeth and pains, don't get me wrong. It wasn't just straight in. We got everything right. It took us probably 3 to 4 months to get everything where we wanted to be, and definitely on the paperless system. And it's all done through the coding. And you can trace every bracket that's been made here, every mupper that goes onto a bracket, every weld that goes on. It's full traceability, so we know who did it, what time they done it, and how long it took them to do it. Safety, I suppose, is another big thing. And again, how do you put a price on safety? You just don't hurt people. I suppose that's everyone's motto in construction. We want people to go home the way they came in, and nobody wants to get hurt. If you can reduce the amount of people that are on your sites, the amount of equipment that's been moved, whether it's MEWPs, teleporters, anything in that line that can hurt people, well, then if you can reduce that by doing it on the OSM floor, again, you're taking the risk off the sites. We have a situation where you could have 25 to 30 MEWPs in the one area, lifting up personnel to be installing ducting, cable tray, pulling cables, pipe work, lagging, labeling, whatever it is. If you can reduce that by any amount of time, you're reducing your chances of an accident or an incident on site. And we are really starting to see the benefit of that by reducing the amount of MEWPs. I'll give a typical example of a corridor inside a data center. You could have 9 or 10 MEWPs with spotters and 2 people per machine, and they're cabling and they're installing containment, installing brackets, installing HVAC. And we've done a short study on it. You're probably reducing your MEWPs by about 70% on that. Now, again, people say, oh, that's money. It's money. Yes, money is one side of things, but I don't want people to get hung up on that. It's really about safety, quality side of things, and schedule. Let the money follow in after that. But the reality is, reduce the amount of vehicles and movement that you have on sites, reduce the amount of people that you have on site, and your safety stats are going to be way lower because you're just taking the risk out of them. We are finding that we're saving maybe 10% on labor, 15% on labor, depends on the type of projects you're working in, and especially on the MEWPs and teleporters, as I mentioned. Sustainability, again, is the last one on this. So our goal, I suppose, in Kirby's is, as with everyone else's at the minute, is sustainability is the #1 keyword. What can we do to reduce waste? People don't believe it. You go out on site, on our side of things, I suppose Unistrut and products like that is probably one of the biggest things that we use. People are offcuts and all that, they go into a skip. Like you could have 200 mil, 300 mil left over. The chances are somebody's going to put them in skip. You look at the efficiencies here in sustainability with reducing waste. They have sections for every offcut and they all get slotted in. It's like pigeonholes, obviously large pigeonholes, and they're put into that. So the amount of waste is reduced phenomenally because everything is reused. If there's a 100 mil piece or there's a 50 mil piece, it can be used. It goes into the pigeonhole, it's reused again. The energy use, again, we've 450 kilowatts of solar put up on the roof here. So we're running probably around 40% of our power for welding and everything and lighting that's done here and inside in our clean rooms as well. It's all done off the solar for the bulk early hours of the morning. And again, that's from 7 to probably 11 is being drawn down off the solar side of things. Again, the energy use that we're talking about, it's not all about what machines are used. We're trying to use as much as we can here. We've battery gone in here as well. And again, on our second phase that we're talking about doing, we'll be doing the exact same thing again. Carbon emissions, while improving quality and efficiency in the construction process, the benefits, I suppose we need to be sustainable. Again, we're going to a lot of interviews at the minute when we're asked, what are you doing about carbon emissions? And again, we talk about all the good old days, the forklifts and teleporters and all that. That's all run off diesel. Now there's hydro and all that, but everything here is battery. Everything we're using here at the minute is battery from everything from our equipment to our forklifts to our lifts, everything is battery, as I said. And we're trying to get to this carbon emissions area where everyone is happy at. Are we there yet? We're not. Is there a plan to get there? There is. We've Jason Doherty employed by us to get us to where we need to be on it. And again, it's just getting through a life cycle of a project where people are talking about stuff. It's the exact same as offsite manufacturing. When I talk to my team that are with us for 20, 25 years, it's the old dog trying to teach the old dog new tricks. Somebody said, this is the way we always done it. Like, we've always stick built. We've always laid our pipe on the racks. We don't need to come in with it. It's just changing that mindset. And it is difficult. Don't get me wrong. Some people will dig their heels in and say, oh, we've always done it this way. We've done 2 projects, one side by side, actually in Ireland. One was done stick built, one was done with this facility. The difference is night and day. The team that's done the stick built said they'll never do stick built again, that they'll go the modular way. And again, but we had to prove it to them. We had to do one way, one the other, and they've seen the benefits of it. So it's amazing when you show people just have it in their head, no, this is the way we've always done it. Again, I said I talk about regions. So Microsoft in Sweden is one of the biggest, I suppose, projects that we're doing out of the OSM. So nearly 50% is manufactured here, flat pack. The one thing about OSM is if you're moving stuff across the continent, you're transporting air, which is a big problem for us. So what we do is we make all our brackets, we flat pack them here, and it's just put together by the team when it goes again. So all the cutting, welding, bolting together is done here, it's flat packed, and then it's put back together again. People are often say to us, why don't you have this facility over in Sweden or in Italy where you're working as well? We have a couple of different projects up here. We've tried it. To have full control in it, we need to be doing out of a central hub. And that's what we've decided to do. So we make everything here. We have teams that follow it out and put it together and install it. Just on the left there, you'll see where one of our modules for another data center is there with all the different services on it. But again, that's just to give it, like Sweden, as people say, why is Sweden one of the most areas that we're supplying? I suppose the cost of labor in some of these areas and for what they're doing, we find it's way more beneficial to do it here and flat pack it over there. Some modules go, as you see in the picture on the left, that's basically in Ireland, UK. Anything that's going to Italy, Sweden is flat packed and is put together by the team that follow it out. Again, we talk about, I suppose, it's becoming a big thing in the construction side of things. How can you influence what design houses, clients, end users want? And it's really down to the early engagement. Pre-construction, I keep saying it, is the most important thing for us. If we don't have the pre-construction right, we won't get it right. You'll fail on your projects. So early design review, whether that's a PCA, whether you're getting in with the design team and the client and you're giving your engineers and you're giving your projects, mechanical project manager, electrical project manager, HVAC project manager, and sitting inside saying, can we have a look at this route? Can we do this? Can we move that there? And again, it's not that we know better than anyone, but it's people that have been installing these things for the last number of years. As I said, it might look lovely on a 2D drawing, but when you actually physically go out onto the site, you say, gee, that won't work. Is there a better way of doing this? So early design review, get that in. The MEP and the CSA, again, I spoke about builders work soaps. If we can get that right, it'll save the GC, the builder, an awful lot of headaches in time. It's probably one of the biggest pet hates they have with an M&E contractor is trying to get the builders works right. OSM, the facility itself, as I said, we invested an awful lot of money here last year, and we're investing probably another 5 or 6 million in the next 12 to 18 months on this as well. If the facility is right, people won't want to work here. If we've gone above and beyond to have the facility right with the best that we can, state-of-the-art clean room for high purity piping. We have the cranes, we have the best welders, we've robotics, we've everything here that we need, that people are happy with and are comfortable with. Because once we want people coming into work for us, we want them to be happy, want them to go home and say, yeah, I want to come back in there tomorrow. 3D modeling and BIM, I suppose on the BIM side of things, Mark Danaher leads that up. He's a director with us. He leads up all our BIM and digital construction side of things with his team of over 100. And again, it's getting that right first time, understanding what we need, understanding what the GC needs, understanding what our clients need. Again, what level do you want to bring the model to? Is it LOD 300, 400, 500? And again, once the modeling is done right, the OSM falls off the back of that. It's very simple. Once we get into OSM, then, as I said, the model is done, the fabrication drawings are done, whether it's pipe racks, whether it's e-houses, whether it's plant rooms, whether it's containment modules, whether it's just structural steel, whatever it is. Once you have your prefabrication drawings, they have to be signed off by our operations team, which is on site. They'll sign it off, which has been signed off previously by the engineers, and then it goes into manufacturing in the OSM. So the drawings have to be to the highest quality, obviously with your CE certification and everything like that. And then you go to your install on site. So it's just in time delivery. We have a massive yard out the back. We have a couple of acres here of a yard. So modules could be sitting there under tarpaulins for maybe 3, 4, 5 weeks. We try to keep it to a minimum of 2 weeks if we can. Sometimes it doesn't work out. The site doesn't lend itself, or it could be weather delaying it or anything like that. But you don't want clogging up a GC site or your client site by landing modules there just to say we have them there. So try get it just in time delivery. And again, somebody has to sign for this to say, yeah, it's fully acceptable. It's as it was sent out. Scan the QR code and do your checks, and then we head into the testing and commissioning. So it's a fairly simple process flow when you look at it like that. And then we start breaking down the BIM process and how we get into that, which is a bit more complex from our side of things. So again, how do we get to it? It's not just an engineer or a BIM personnel or technician sitting down starting to do up drawings. This is a full team that sits around tables, and it's the project team. Now that's everyone from our side of things, from construction to operations to engineers to BIM to fabrication team, everything, and they all have to feed into this process, because if the drawings are wrong and they're signed off, it's made, you only get one chance at it. There's no point in something going to site and it's wrong. So there's an awful lot of checks and balances that have to be done to make sure this is right. And again, it looks very difficult when you break it down, but if everyone doesn't buy into this process, you're going to have a gap. And once you have a gap, there's a fair chance that something will be wrong when you're manufacturing, and you won't find out till we get to go to site. So there's a full sign-off process that's in place for us before it comes into OSM. So it's not just a drawing that lands in on Martin Minnan, who's our offsite manufacturing manager here. It doesn't just land into him. He has buy-in to that as well through the operations team. They go down through it. What's right? What's the best? Like sometimes you'll see different systems. You'll have Sikla, you'll have Hilti, you'll have steel. And again, you need to see what's right for the project. What's the best way to do it? Again, when it comes to weights, have we allowed for weights? Is there propping needed? Is there not? And again, all this is done by our engineering team. And again, once you have a team that's sitting around the table and they collate all the information together, you'll get the right result. And once you get the right result, then it just pops into OSM. There's no thinking about it. The team here, the 50 odd people, fabricate out in a truck, and it's as simple as that. Now that's a very high level of OSM manufacturing from Kirby's side of things, but it's a game changer for us. And again, I just love when people start coming in and asking me, how much would it save? How much would it save? Not about money. It's all about time. All about time. When we're manufacturing, as the building's coming out of the ground, that's where we see the real benefits of it. So that's it, Jamie, from my side of things.
Brilliant. Thanks a minute, Mikey. That's fantastic. And look, well done. Brilliant to see such a success. And I mean, to commission an offsite manufacturing facility, and then as soon as you're starting, that you're going doubling the capacity again and increasing your workforce from 50 to 80. That's great news, and long may it last as well in terms of the demand from it. So great. And I'm sure there's going to be loads of questions for you from our audience. So if anyone's any questions, please stick them in the Q&A function at the bottom of the screen. So just conscious of time, so we're going to move on to our second presenter today, Ross Kilshaw, who's co-founder and COO of Artic. And Mikey talked all about productivity there, and really about saving time in there, and about, I suppose we have, it's hard to get people in the construction sector at the moment, so we need to get more out of our labour in there, so get things done quicker but safer, with high quality in there, and more sustainable as well. So I think Ross is going to focus in now on how they can support in terms of labour productivity. So over to you, Ross.
So I'm Ross, co-founder and COO of Artic. So I'm an architect by trade. I specialised in DFMA earlier on in my career. Worked for WSP, led a few large-scale modular development programs out in the Middle East. Worked for Seksiri House, probably one of the world's largest off-site manufacturing residential providing residential homes in the world. And now I'll move on to the presentation. So yeah, labor productivity. How can we? One of the questions we always get asked by our customers is how can we scale with security and comfort? If we actually look at what that question means, is obviously to scale, you need to increase capacity. But where the comfort and security comes from is they need to be sure that they're reducing the waste and also they're pricing accurately. It's kind of no good if you're going to try and scale a business, but you're getting your pricing wrong because it essentially means you're going to be losing more money as you scale. So we work with a lot of different offsite manufacturers. When we say prefab or offsite manufacturer, we don't just mean kind of modular or other elements that you would expect when you kind of Google it. This is anywhere from curtain walling, timber walls, facade panels, roofs, MEPs, as Mike mentioned, data centers, walls, timber, windows, bathroom pods. But they all come to us with one problem. They need to work efficiently from factory into site. And it's a tough gig. We've had a lot of high profile closures here in the UK, which stem from a lot of the kind of the issues that we're seeing in the industry as a whole. So top levels, what does that mean? Well, kind of a lot of the customers we work with, before we get started, one of their issues is labor efficiency. How do we increase the productivity of our labor force? This is closely linked to the total cost which go into each product. By not understanding the cost of each product, it's very hard for sales team to price with confidence. So sometimes you'll either kind of put a buffer on there and then lose the job, and in other cases you'll actually price too low. And by at the end of the project, it's almost like a finger in the air moment, like have we actually made money on this project or not? Essentially, the big issue is you end up delivering projects unprofitably. So if we look at what that means in terms of cost or cost of goods sold, well, in offsite manufacturing, as Mikey mentioned, timing is everything. And with Artic, we essentially can break that down into two categories, either productive time or waste. And when I mean waste, this is downtime. So kind of how worker needs to be contributing to the cost of goods sold productively and not stood around doing nothing. If we look at Taiichi Ono, the creator of the Toyota production system, costs do not exist to be calculated, costs exist to be reduced. So how do we reduce costs? Well, as I mentioned, costs are very closely linked to time in offsite manufacturer. We can split that into productive and downtime. So if we actually look at one of the big challenges is it's understanding how long each process is going to take or product is going to take to manufacture. Anybody who's worked with manufacture will know that you'll have certain products which we call a high complexity or a high workload, and other products which are low or a low workload or low complexity. The average cycle time of these high complexity or high workload items will take longer to build, so therefore that should have been built into the pricing. And likewise, the low complexity, that is a way for your sales team to be able to basically bring that price down comfortably and therefore win more work. So our software helps calculate how long each product takes to manufacture. If we now break that down into waste, so each operative can then track their downtime, so the management, the leadership can understand at the end of the month, what is my biggest cause of downtime? If you do work in a facility, it's kind of an interesting question. One of the questions we ask very early on in all deployments, we kind of ask them, what do they think the biggest cause of downtime is going to be in the facility? And then within a month, we kind of look back at all of the data, look at the trend analysis, and we can actually kind of compare that in terms of they thought it would have been downtime due to machinery, but actually a lot of the times it links back to wrong drawings on the factory floor, or maybe waiting for materials, or waiting for another station to index. So With construction, as a lot of you might be aware, data is a massive problem, or data consistency. So actually in Artic, we don't allow, or we kind of deliberately take that option to kind of type notes in. And actually what we do is we pre-populate it with options so that it standardizes all of that data input. So you at the end of the month can see the biggest cause of downtime within your facility. We can actually then break this down into actual workers. So I've kind of stripped all of the actual names off. These are all kind of anonymized names or names that aren't actually on our deployments. And what you can see here is the amount of time that people are working throughout the week, and this is how many hours they are productive in a day. So you can see the top one, Ethan here. He was actually idle only 10% of the week, but you can see his total downtime was 23 hours, while his productive time was 12.1. So that's actually really important for anybody kind of supervising the team or kind of production manager on the factory floor. I would really want to know, why is Ethan on downtime for 24 hours a week? Because that's essentially Ethan telling you, I cannot contribute to cost of goods sold going out this factory door. If anybody knows this man, he's probably did a lot better in cycling than he does at Manchester United right now. But essentially what he brought to the world was this idea of marginal gains. And it's one idea that we kind of bring into all of our deployments. Once we can actually identify all of that waste within a facility, then you can start understanding, how can I reduce this waste 1% every week, 1% every week. By the end of the year, you can actually see that you've reduced your waste by up to about 30 to 50% over the year, which can contribute to about 20 to 30% more output annually. So if we kind of go back to how we started the presentation of how do we scale with comfort, well, it's all about timings for us, and it's all about understanding how long is it going to take to manufacture each product, which can then inform the pricing. So we go from not understanding what panels are going to take to manufacture, to understanding exactly we've got medium workload, low workload, and high workload, so we can price accurately. So to scale with security and comfort, first of all, we believe that you need to understand the cycle times and product complexity. Once you do that, you can actually start identifying and reducing the waste within your processes on the factory floor. And then that can inform your sales teams moving forward, so that you can price more accurately, so that you either can start winning more work or ensuring on some of the larger scale schemes that you're not going to lose work at the end of the project. We just look at some of the kind of case studies we're seeing. So Ibstock, factory over here in the UK, in England. Within about 8 weeks, we managed to reduce their waste time due to rework by about 54%. And what does that look like at the end of the year? Well, this can actually look like about an 18% increase in throughput. For this company here, it was an additional 6.5 million revenue. So at the end of our deployments, we end up going from a facility with basically no visibility, no understanding of where that waste, not understanding which person on that factory floor is actually stood, not contributing to cost of goods sold, to full visibility across the factory floor. You can understand exactly what stations are in downtime, which ones are on track, which ones are off track, overrunning, so that you can start understanding how much meters squared or modules are going out the door, how many quality checks have been passed, how many have been failed, and you can start to track these trend analysis of understanding what is the biggest cause of downtime, so you can attack that next month to reduce that. And that is the end of the presentation. I think we'll get questions at the end, if I'm correct.
Brilliant, Ross. Yeah, indeed, hopefully. Yep, so if any questions for Ross, please put them in the Q&A function at the bottom of the screen. So, great to see as you track. Well, first thing is to make sure the data quality is good in there, and once you have the good data quality then and tracking it, then you can see what what as you call wasted time, or basically unproductive time with your workforce, and potentially increasing your output then by maybe 15-20% as a result of being able to track that, which is pretty good, good for the bottom line in there. So okay, so we're going to move on to our next presenter, who's Barry Kennedy, who's director of Irish Manufacturing Research Centre. He's going to take us through talk to us around manufacturing efficiency and sustainability. So over to you, Barry.
Barry Kennedy is my name. I run a technology centre, a complementary technology centre to Construct Innovate that Jamie and the team are running. It's called Irish Manufacturing Research. And I'll tell you a little bit about ourselves there. But the reason why we were set up is because we've been asked to support and help broad sector manufacturing across all the different sectors. So we're a translational research centre that has been set up to support organisations like the construction sector, but also across the biomed, pharma, ICT, heavy engineering, food sectors. And when we look at Ireland today, 35% of our GDP depends on manufacturing. That is a significant and important thing for this economy in Ireland. And if we're going to maintain and keep that in this country, we're going to have to protect it and be careful about the things that we do. And unfortunately, over the years, or fortunately, we've become wealthier. But from a manufacturing point of view, I suppose it's unfortunate in that we're now the 9th most expensive salaries on the planet. And in order for us to be able to maintain a 35% GDP with those kind of salaries, we need to start looking at ways to automate and digitize our manufacturing facilities. And in the world today, we're ranked 23rd when it comes to digital competitiveness. And when it comes to industrial automation and say robotics, if we compare ourselves to South Korea, they've got 1,010 robots per 10,000 employees. In Germany is around about 450, 470. The UK is at 111 robots per 10,000 employees. And Ireland is at 55 robots per 10,000 employees. So you can't maintain globally to be 35% of your GDP here in this country, maintain this global presence, if it's a case that you're the 9th most expensive salaries and you're that far down the table in terms of digital readiness or competitiveness and industrial automation and robotics. So our job was to help companies on that transition into what's called Industry 4.0. And our creed, we say our job is to demystify, de-risk and deliver these emerging technologies for manufacturing firms. When we asked the industry what they wanted from us, we said we want to tell us, IMR, what the factory of the future looks like, how we should automate, and tell us about the professionals of the future. Who should they be? What kind of new skills are emerging and coming in there? And help us to do it in a sustainable way. Our facility is 35,000 square feet, industrial test bed space down in Mullingar. If anyone is ever interested and wants to come down and see us, you'd be very welcome. And today we have 118 research team, and we're planning to double that over the next few years. The kind of services we offer, primarily it's all about industrial research, late stage research, in fact, more innovation than research. And we're focused on doing work in Europe and European research programs. Late stage research as well. It's about platform technologies, trying to enable SME growth into Europe as much as it is about the research side of it. And then we have a bunch of other things that we do in there, like training, consultancy, and we have a product process innovation hub amongst a number of other things. We do our research across 4 main pillars. Digitization of manufacturing, that's sensorizing systems and machines, gathering the data from those machines to make intelligent business decisions. We've got robotics and automation, which is obviously it's about bringing robots in to work, in some cases side by side human beings in a collaborative way. It's about design for manufacturing, how you design and lay out your factory facilities, what kind of modern methods of construction should you be looking at within your factory facility for designing and building products, and the whole area of sustainable manufacturing. So it was discussed earlier, so I won't linger on this here about, why, from a construction point of view, the impact that I guess the industry has from a sustainability point of view. It accounts for 21% of global greenhouse emissions and 40% of the waste that goes into municipal waste dumps and things like that. So in terms of a sector, it uses up 40% of the raw materials worldwide and over 25% of virgin wood annually. So it has this whole sector has a major impact on the carbon footprint. And so it's really important that the industry rethinks itself and reimagines itself to become a lot more sustainable. And Mikey, I think, talked about that very well earlier. So in order to try and make that big improvement, a big shift, going to OSM is a great way in terms of improving sustainability. You know, from an energy use point of view, time efficiency, quality, environmental impact, and labor requirements. And that was all mentioned earlier, so I won't linger on that for now. When it comes to wanting to go next stage with OSM, there's a bunch of things that need to take place on transitions, you know, and we heard a little bit that the previous speaker was talking about some of that kind of digital transformation in terms of how you can improve labor efficiency within your organization. So this industry needs to start to engage in a much more meaningful way than it has been to this point in the whole digital twinning, AI, automation, robotics, and that whole area. It needs to be looking actively at the circular economy, and we heard earlier about, you know, how substantive improvements have been made there in terms of waste material and reducing that, but more work has to be done there. And there needs to be emerging policies that will support, and there are coming in from government to help support this industry here and how to manufacture in a more sustainable way. When we look at the robotics and digitization and automation and our organization, we have tools, systems, and capability to help you on that transition. If you are companies who are manufacturing, I'd invite you to come and have a conversation with us. The impact that you expect to see is improved quality, faster project completion, costs being driven down, and significant reduction in environmental impact. And so it's important, the labor way we manufacture and the use of labor today, particularly an off-site construction, as you know, isn't the most efficient and effective way for us to manufacture homes, buildings now and into the future. When we look at some of the maybe robotics, just to give you kind of a taste of some of the things, if you haven't seen it before, the kind of stuff that's coming or in play at the moment. There are various tools and systems and machines and robots that exist today. The Hilti J-Bot one there for automatically drilling holes in walls, for instance. You've got the canvas wall finishing robot, which sprays like a plaster or a thick paint across plasterboard walls there to mitigate the need to have to do plastering. So there are these types of robotic systems and tools that are now coming out onto the marketplace that are going to be transformative in nature. For them to work properly, they're going to have to be integrated into the off-site manufacturing facilities. They're going to have to seamlessly connect between BIM models and the talking to the robots and how you're going to do all that. There's a huge amount of work required still in that whole space. If you're looking for DFM and automation from a DFM point of view, for construction-based materials and consumables, along with robotics, there's a huge body of work that still needs to be done there. And if we look at things like welding, for instance, in off-site manufacturing, a huge scarcity of welders globally. And so robotic welding is something that's going to have to come in a significant way. So how do you automate robotic welding and the transformations that are required there? We've got teams within our organization to be able to help companies, I guess, tackle those particular types of challenges. If you want to look at the wacky kind of robotic side of things here, we've got one of our lead, in fact, our director of robotics, it was an ex-NASA scientist, and he actually used to work on the Valkyrie robot. He's down there in the bottom right-hand screen, and the robot that's above him there, the top right-hand picture there, is showing that particular robot assembling scaffolding, for instance. And so if you really want to go and have a look at some of the real zany and really futuristic stuff that's kind of going on, then we've got people within our own organization to help you and bring you along that particular journey. This is the last thing I wanted to talk through, just to give you a taster of some of the other things that we're doing and that might be of interest to folk here on the line. This is a tool called the Nava tool, which we have built. And basically it's using a 360-degree camera to walk around the facility. In this case, what you're seeing here on the left-hand side is Eastbrook Studios in London. It's over 1 million square foot of studio space for making movies. And it's being constructed there. I think it's the largest one in Europe at the moment. And what they wanted to do there was to monitor every week what had been happening within the building. And so we've developed a system and a tool and a capability that you can walk around this facility in 3 hours with a 360-degree camera and map out what's been going on week. And it allows you to do all kinds of things, collaborating from anywhere and anytime. In this case, the CEO of this particular company was based in the US. And so weekly, he would be looking at the output from the Innovate tool to see what progress had been made the previous week. So it allows for collaboration. It allows for exploring any time and place in your project, comparisons between what happened the previous week and the current week. And it allows you to do basically, the system is very quick and easy to use, and you could literally deploy it onto any site anywhere in the world very simply. And so this, in terms of off-site manufacturing, why would that be of interest? Well, if you're building a building off-site and then it's being assembled remotely, like in Sweden, as we heard earlier, then through a capability like this, as the building is being put together, and as the wiring looms and the plumbing and all the other various bits and pieces are going into the building, that it can be tracked remotely week on week to ensure what the progress is. And you can do audits and all kinds of fancy stuff with the platform. So we've built that actually for this particular sector here. We've also built a version of that actually for going around buildings, so you don't get lost to map your way around complex buildings like hospitals and things like that. Thank you, Jamie. I think I'm done there now.
Brilliant. Thanks, Barry. That's great. Thanks for giving us the overview there of what's going on and the potential support that you guys in the Irish Manufacturing Research Centre can do for the construction sector. Okay, so that's the end of our 3 formal presentations.